not try something smart to chew on? The Lunchroom on RCI, Monday to Friday, 12:45 to 2 p.m. The Lunchroom, informative, enlightening, provocative, engaging. The Lunchroom on RCI, food for thought. The station that gives you, more lunch.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the Lunchroom on Radio Caribbean International. And of course, it is Monday, the 9th of February, 2026. And of course, we are on 101.1 FM radio as well on our Lunchroom feed, Lunchroom on the Facebook feed, sorry. And you just have to search for the official page of Radio Caribbean International on Facebook. Please be sure to like and share that as well with your friends and family. The numbers to call in to tell us what's on your plate today, it is 452-3046. Again, 452-3046. And you can also reach us at our WhatsApp number. That is what is it now? It's 724-6001. Yes. Sorry, 284-6001. 284-6001. Our WhatsApp number on the Lunchroom. Now, of course, look back in time for today, and we go back into the year 1775. The British Parliament declared Massachusetts colony in rebellion. Of course, that was in the lead up to the American Revolutionary War. 1897, on this day, the invasion of Benin City by the British Expeditionary Force saw the city being burned and looted, ending the Nigerian Kingdom of Benin, which was formed in the 11th century. And of course, the very famous looting involved taking a number of the Benin bronzes and masks out of that country. Great effort at play right now to have them repatriated to Nigeria. In the year 1904, Japanese torpedo boats launched a surprise attack on Russian ships at Port Arthur Naval Base in Manchuria, beginning the Russo-Japanese War. Japanese troops also landed at Chimulpo, near Incheon in Seoul, Korea. In 3 weeks, they advanced to the Yalu River, the border of Manchuria. 1943, Japanese troops evacuate Guadalcanal, ending the epic World War II battle on the Solomon Islands in the Pacific. And 1972, on this day, the British government declared a state of emergency after a month-long coal miners' strike. And, of course, we now move on to our dish of the day.
Serving now, the Daily Dish.
Oh, and I forgot to mention some birthday greetings. Very bad of me. And, of course, one of them I must do is that of my daughter, who turns 2 today. So happy birthday to you, Mikoline. And, of course, we love you very dearly. I also want to send out some birthday greetings to some other individuals out there. Ambassador over in, Consul General, for St. Lucia over in Toronto. His Excellency, Mr. Henry Mangal. It's his birthday today, so happy birthday to you, and hope you're having a great one. And also to Mr. Murphylas James, of course, the president of the Council for Persons of and for Disabilities here in St. Lucia, and a former classmate of mine. So we want to wish Murphylas a fantastic birthday celebration. And of course, to all those others who may be celebrating their birthdays today and over the weekend. Now, we want to turn our attention to a few matters that are in the news and have been a bit topical. One of them seems to be causing a lot of interest of late, and that is in respect of the plans for the construction of a new hotel in the VG area, and that is on the heels of a consultation, a public consultation, stakeholder consultation, which was held sometime last week, I think on the 5th of February, by the individuals of Invest St. Lucia. And they, in fact, were asked to have this public consultation on the matter of this proposed development, which has thus far, I think, received approval in principle from the Development Control Authority. Now, of course, still not fully approved, but certainly lots of dialogue seems to be causing a lot of stir on this matter, the matter of a proposal for a project hotel development. Well, it's actually, I think, a combination of a hotel as well as condominiums being proposed for a lot, which some people would remember as a hotel from before. And I think at one point it was the St. Lucia Beach Hotel. I think some may have known it as the Blue Waters. Some may have known of it, I think, as the Red Lion property. And persons who would have remembered it perhaps up until the late 1980s and 1990s was a very popular spot for persons, vacationers, as well as St. Lucians who would have had events there and what have you. So we're speaking of a property that is located towards the western end of VG Beach. Of course, VG Beach is a very long stretch of beach that is effectively the public beach of the city of Castries. It is and has had a very long association and is seen to be the beach that most people in Castries would generally gravitate towards. It's in fact being sort of like the northern rim of the city. And at one point in time, of course, certainly prior to the development of the airport, they would have had a very direct access down Lance Road to that beach. That section very famously used to be called the Coconut Walk because it was there were palms and coconut trees lining that roadway from when it met Lance Road heading up towards Vidbouteille. And of course, later on, saw the introduction around 1902, I think, or thereabouts, of the VG Cemetery, which was placed pretty much almost right onto the beach and has been the principal public cemetery for the city of Castries since then. Later on in the 1930s, saw the introduction of the first airport in St. Lucia, which was constructed at VG. And then later on, that airport was in fact extended westward, which in fact involved the cutting of a hill which ran towards the western end of the runway, allowing for that runway to be extended westwards. And as a result of that as well, there was some loss of some of the historic buildings, the barracks that were existed on that ridge. That ridge extended towards what we can call Ganter's Bay today. And so certainly there has been some tremendous amount of changes, so to speak, over the years in respect of VG. Once upon a time, of course, in the era when there was not that much air traffic, persons would have been able to have waited at a traffic light and to cut across the runway, to get to the other side. Of course, those things have come to an end. In some countries, they still exist. I think in the case of Gibraltar, that territory that finds itself on the southern tip of Spain, owned by the United Kingdom, they in fact have to use a similar arrangement of driving across the runway to get to the other side, and very, very limited options there because of the smallness of the space. But that is a thing of the past, and certainly the VG Peninsula has felt a bit sort of cut off, with really only one access point coming up from the VG roundabout. The development under question, as I said, being proposed is towards that western end of VG. I think approximately maybe about 5 acres of land, privately owned property, which in fact, as I said, was originally a hotel development, one of St. Lucia's earliest hotels, for that matter. Of course, perhaps the debate that may be on is one of scale, and whether persons believe that maybe the scale of the development is too extensive or too intensive, if you like. But certainly the issue as to the use previously, one can certainly argue that it was in fact a touristic site of use. The issue of heights and height restrictions, in fact, did come into play from another development from not too far away from that very same, where that project is being proposed. And that involved another individual, Mr. Pat Brown of blessed memory. He wanted to develop a hotel project not too far away from just there. And there were issues of height being raised by some of the adjoining properties, and that building which he was constructing was obstructing views. I think it went to the courts, and he was in fact successful in his that assessment, and he could have continued constructing that building. Don't think it was ever fully completed, and so it's still just there. And so, of course, the issue of heights is one where perhaps there will be some level of debate. Persons will see the such contentions having to be played out in certain places where we are going to be seeing densification of development. Certainly, most buildings in St. Lucia, and of course there is always that debate as to how tall is really tall. There is no skyscraper here in St. Lucia, and in fact, most buildings within the range of 3 to 8, 9 stories are considered mid-rise buildings, not really tall enough to be considered really high rises. And so, but perhaps within the context of St. Lucia, which is where a lot of buildings will be just 2 levels, maybe 3, they seem pretty tall. But we have seen certainly a number of developments lately, exceeding that general idea of 2 to 3 levels. And certainly in some of the newer developments, the likes of Harbor Club, the likes of the Royalton, for example, you have seen a lot of buildings going up to about 5, 6, 7 levels. And of course, the question is what style, and is that in keeping with what people want? And of course, is it impacting on some of the maybe traditional views that that persons may want to preserve? For example, I think in the case of Royalton, unfortunately, there was a very attractive view from the original Great House for that area, the Cap Great House. And that, of course, a very historic building, and which had a view of Bethune, Os Bethune, ended up being shrouded as a result of the construction of Royalton. So it certainly does have impacts on sometimes if these things are not fully thought through. In the case of Barbados, for example, there have been efforts by some to pursue what they've been calling windows to the sea, opportunities of having little gaps and vistas where people can still see, have visuals of the seaside. In many places in St. Lucia, the roads are actually relatively inland. They're not literal. They're not right on the along the seaside, as is in the case in a lot of other Caribbean countries. If you visit, for example, Dominica, where you see that very, very commonly, a lot of the roads are the coastal roads are really coastal roads. They're almost right along the edge for a very long distance. The same can be said for Grenada, a very similar situation there. And even to some extent as well in some parts of the windward coast of St. Vincent, similar arrangement. But be that as it may, we don't really have that many roads that fit into that kind of categorization. And perhaps one of the few is certainly Nelson Mandela Drive, formerly a Peninsula Road, which heads into VG, and which effectively acts as a sort of an esplanade or Cornish Road. You may see that terminology sometimes. So there's just enough space really for the beach and for beach type activities, and the view is effectively preserved, if you like, by that reality. And many have said that we should be seeing a lot more of these types of situations, because roads are common spaces, give common access to an area. And so having these coastal roads with the beach allows for everybody to be able to, relatively easily access the seaside, right? That, of course, is not that common in many places in St. Lucia. Whereas, and you've heard the comparison, in a lot of places in the United States, you do have the beach, and then you've got the road pretty much right along the beach, and then you would have any development occurring on the land side of that road. So a Miami Beach type situation, for example. And certainly it is a style of development that we have not generally had, because we've seen a lot of emphasis on the resort style approach in many areas where individuals want direct access to the beach, to the shoreline from their resorts. Now, of course, this is all against the backdrop of a very useful piece of aspect within our civil code, and that is the matter of the crown or the king's chain. And that effectively a ribbon of coastal crown lands that has been passed down by the traditions that were in place from the French era, which effectively has been maintained and is nearly all around St. Lucia, with a few gaps. Interestingly, in the case of VG as well as La Toc, those properties were placed under the War Department. And that goes back into the period of the 1880s, thereabouts, with the Castries was identified as a a protected garrison for recalling, for refueling, if you like. And so as a result of that, these lands were for the protection of the harbor at Latok as well as at VG, and they maintain within those War Department designations. And so in those areas, there was in fact no King's Chain applied in such areas. In others, in most of the country, we do have King's Chain or Queen's Chain as it was formerly. And so there is that leverage that the state actually has in many of those areas to be able to secure and ensure that there is a public interest maintained. It's a very old piece of legislation, and in fact, it has been used for the protection of the public interest. Very famously, one of the persons who was very much responsible for establishing the Civil Code of St. Lucia, or revising it, if you like, back in the 1870s, that governor of the time, British Columbian governor of St. Lucia, George William DeVoe, he actually was a lawyer who assisted in the whole codification of that law. And it was used in the case of canneries. And that's because the estate owner wanted to effectively evict the individuals who had settled there along the coastline, which is now the village of Canneries, and so he wanted to get them out, and the rights of the crown was evoked, if you like, and in fact used for their protection at that time, interestingly enough. So in the case of this property, it is fully privately owned, and it certainly is going to be a very interesting debate, I suppose, an area of as to how then one would like to see that property being developed. And whether in fact it is a matter of design, whether it is in fact a matter of scale, those issues, of course, should all have a good level of consideration. But I would say for the most part, thankfully, thanks to that road, that littoral road, the vast majority of the VG Beach is in fact accessible and will remain accessible, no doubt. And we've heard lots of proposals over the years. Some people have perhaps unfortunately even suggested, well, maybe we should remove the cemetery. I would hate to think that we would get to that point as a society where we would want to be disposing of our memories, and cemeteries are places of remarkable memory. And certainly, you look at what exists in VG Cemetery, and you're well over 100 years of persons being interred in that location. I would say, certain things have to be sacrosanct and certainly protected for the greater good. Albeit, of course, the cemetery has been facing a significant amount of challenges in respect of erosion and persons losing their loved ones because tombs being lost to the sea. So it is certainly something one has to think of. And in fact, overall, the impacts that we've seen on VG Beach as a result of other coastal actions, there's been suggestions that it certainly was impacted since the introduction of the Pigeon Island Causeway. Others have suggested, of course, we're seeing the impact of sea level rise. That is another major area of concern for us right here as small island states that are certainly seeing rising levels of coastal erosion that are in fact impacting on our beaches. Had a visit to Labrie Beach some time ago, and was quite it was quite an unfortunate sight in my view, seeing the extent of erosion at the Rudy John Beach Park, for example. And so many of our beaches are facing such challenges. And so the importance of how we build, are we in fact looking at the matters of sea level rise and trying to balance it out, of course, with the need for development? There is that big debate on as to, do you go with the hotels that are low rise but spread out and effectively taking up more land, or do you try to then densify and try to make more of parcels of and development that is more compact, more dense? Certainly, we've seen a significant spread or expansion of how we've gone about development, and that has its consequences. When you look at Castries, for example, there are a few, hotels in and around the Castries area, but Castries as itself, as a destination, has been underperforming, and one can say has even seen an exodus of hotel and accommodation being available in the city center and the region around the city, the fringes of the city. Still a few properties that are holding on very nicely. The likes of Bellevue, for example. This project up at Point Seraphine that's been under construction. I think a Courtyard Marriott. But many areas, including around VG, like Gantes Bay, have been earmarked for potential redevelopment and tying it really into the tourism product and the development of the city itself. We think of, for example, Rio de Janeiro, and it's definitely a very, very large city, and it's a destination, and people see the city as the destination, and of course the very famous beaches, Ipanemas and Copacabanas of Rio de Janeiro, and likewise Miami and South Beach. Again, similar types of approach. We have sort of cast a lot of the resorts further out from the city center itself, and so the city itself has sort of underperformed and has decayed as a result of some of that. And so it's not a bad idea to necessarily have some more hotel stock within the city area, provided, of course, no doubt that it needs to be tastefully done, and it certainly still should not compromise on the overall access of the public to the spaces that we all want to, of course, enjoy. So no doubt the debate will continue on this matter, as with a number of other ones, but let's hope that, of course, a happy compromise can be found on such issues. That's our dish of the day. When we come back, we'll take in our weather report.
This has been The Daily Dish.
Island style. We got the time to make you go. We got the time to make you say, we'll have to make the right choice. Island style. We got the time that will make you happy. Island style. Oh yeah. We make your dream come alive in Island style. We have times and princess, pieces and ground. Everything you need is on the outside. For the best price and the latest style. Take a little drive down to Island Style car. We got the time to make you go. We got the time to make you say, quality rice, service choice. It's all at Island Style.
Visit us at our showrooms in Bellarosa, Rodney Bay, on the John Compton Highway, Street, and behind Ruby's Gas Station on the Library, Viewport Highway. So call us on 450-452 or 453-TILE. Island Style, Tile and Bath. When you think tile, think Island Style.
This is Radio Caribbean International. It's now time for the weather news.
And that's what, of course, the 1.1 is now time for your weather forecast as of 12 noon today, presented by Island Style Talamba. The forecast for St. Lucia Valley for the next 24 hours. Winds will be blowing from between the northeast and east in 17 miles per hour or 28 kilometers per hour, becoming lighter at times. The weather partly cloudy to cloudy skies with scattered light to moderate showers from late afternoon. There is an advisory which reads that small craft operators and sea beavers are advised to exercise caution due to locally rough seas. And the forecast for the Les Antilles, partly cloudy skies, partly cloudy to cloudy skies with scattered light to moderate showers. And the weather summary, a weak surface trough will cause some cloudy periods with scattered showers over the southern half of the Les Antilles. Meanwhile, a frontal boundary will cause similar weather conditions over the northern half of the region during the forecast period. Also, light to moderate northeasterly to easterly winds are expected across the Eastern Caribbean region during the next couple of days. And this has been your weather forecast as of 12 noon today, presented by Island Style Talamba.
This has been RCI's weather news. For more information, call the weather hotline at 454-3452. RCI 101 number 1.
Island Style, yeah. We got the time to make you go. We got the time to make you say, yeah. We'll have to make the right choice. Island Style, whoa. We got the time that will make you happy. Island Style, oh yeah. We make your dream come alive in Island Style.
We have tiles and insects, mixes and grow. Everything you need is on the house out. For the best price and the latest style. Take a little drive down to Island Style car.
We got the time to make you go. We got the time to make you say, quality, price, service, choice. It's all an Island Style.
Visit us at our showrooms in Belarus and Rodney Bay on the John Compton Highway, Cass Street, and behind Ruby's Gas Station on the Library Viewport Highway. So call us on 450-452 or 453-TILE. Island Style, Tile and Bath. When you think tile, think Island Style.
And welcome back to the lunchroom here at Radio Caribbean International. Now, of course, you can call in to tell us what's on your plate today. The number to do so is 452-3046. Again, 452-3046. And for the show today, we were speaking about a proposal for the construction of a resort on the site of formerly, I think, the Blue Waters Red Lion Hotel. I think roughly a 5-acre property on the western end of VG. And I think there's also, in fact, a petition going around by a very good friend of mine. I think he's the author of it, in fact, on the entire matter of that development. Let's take a call at this time as we go to the phone lines. Good afternoon. Welcome to the lunchroom.
Good afternoon, Mr. George.
How are you doing, sir?
Too bad.
Good.
Yeah. The hotel you're talking about is Blue Waters.
Yes.
But that was owned by local Solution.
The St. Helen family, I believe, yes? St. Helens.
One of them, that was chap we used to call St. Helen.
Yes.
St. Helen.
Yes.
St. Helen was in sports and everything. Grew up with the Odlums and those people there. Yeah. And that hotel there it was really needed. That was built when St. Lucia really wanted hotel. We didn't have hotel in St. Lucia. When I grew up, we had hotel in St. Lucia.
Mm-hmm.
We had a couple of St. Anne guest house. So that was, I don't know which one first, if it's Palm Beach or if it's, but I think Blue Waters was built before Palm Beach.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Come out right from, that's Mandela Drive.
Mm-hmm.
On your left-hand side, you just turn in or you turn higher up to VG.
Right.
Yeah, and that was very, very, very good. And talking about skyscraper, we don't have no tall building in St. Lucia. The last time I talked to you, and I did call a few spots we remain because St. Lucia has a special stories. You have to take one down to put one up now. Castries is finished built. So anything you want to build in Castries, you have to take one down and you put one up. You probably go higher up. And I did ask for four. I did mention 4 spots. The old cigarette factory, Massey take that build now, and now the Hall of Justice will take the other spot. And there's remain one big spot in Castries is behind the post office and the Barclays First Caribbean Bank.
Right.
That was the sugar house where when they take down the sugar from cul-de-sac, they used to store sugar there.
Okay.
That's still there, and you could put 2 buildings there. That's a very big building. But apart from that, you hardly find anything to build in Castries. And the other was Palm Beach. Yeah, Palm Beach. I have the postcard of Palm Beach now in my thing because sometimes I pick up thing and I hold it.
Right.
And I probably give it to if they open the museum in Latok.
Okay.
I have quite a few pieces. I give them a few pieces already, but I have a few pieces saved.
Okay. Good stuff.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. Well, make sure you get them scanned.
That's AD is monks, Chinese monks. That's about thousands of years old.
Okay.
Yeah. So they're watching what's going on, and I leave it to you, Mr. Judd. Good afternoon.
Okay, Connor. Thanks very much for that interjection there. And of course, as you mentioned, Palm Beach, I think, of course, we just noted the passing of Mr. Leslie Clark last week. Was his funeral. And actually, I do have a tribute from just about going through the Weekend Voice and some of the things that came out of it. And there is actually a tribute which was written on him by my dad. And I thought it was interesting to share it because I need to give some context to a lot of what Mr. Clark had contributed to. And of course, it does mention Palm Beach in there. So if we don't have a call right now, I'm going to share it at this time. And it starts off as follows. He was my boyhood friend who, together with his cousins Jennifer and Janice Clark, his brother Terry, and his neighbors, the Closers, the Georges, Pilgrims, and Hinksons, roamed the Rockall Hills of Marcia. He was the firstborn of Reginald Reggie Clark and Jean Clark nee Bristol, who saw sunlight on Friday, April 30th, 1943. He was a derivative of the well-known, respected, illustrious St. Lucian immigrant families, the Clarks, who originated from St. Vincent, and the Bristols from Carriacou off Grenada. His paternal grandfather, Robert Pappy Clark, was perhaps St. Lucia's foremost pharmacist and philanthropist of his time, and his maternal grandfather, Dr. De Vere Bristol, in the early days provided yeoman medical services in nearly every district of St. Lucia. Leslie received his early childhood education at the Anglican infant and primary schools in Castries before entering St. Mary's College at Vigy for his secondary education. At St. Mary's, he received both a classical and scientific education, which was offered by the Presentation Brothers. He was an all-round ideal student who performed brilliantly both in academics and extramural activities. Like his father, Reggie, and his uncle, Tim, he was an accomplished sportsman and participated in athletics, cricket, football, and lawn tennis. He represented St. Mary's College at inter-schools tournaments and the island in both cricket and football. He became the youngest national football team captain. However, football left its mark with a knee injury that led to a distinctive walk like Ira Dove, by which he could be identified a mile away. Leslie received his tertiary education in Canada at McGill University, where he graduated with a natural science degree. However, with his entrepreneurial spirit, he opted for commercial management, specializing in the computerization of business enterprises and activities. He became a management consultant in Kenya on behalf of the Canadian International Development Agency, CEDA. Upon his return to St. Lucia, he joined the family business and was the first person to introduce computers into the commercial landscape of the island. He later branched out on his own and was the managing director of the local chain of a major American pizzeria restaurant franchise. Leslie had strong nationalist tendencies, and so found time, despite his managerial heavy workload, to engage in national services. He was manager and later chairman of the National Development Corporation. His contributions to national development were many, but two stand out. The first was his cooperation with Kenny Anthony in the building of Hess schools after Hurricane Allen in 1980. The second was his cooperation with Francis Leos of Geese Industries in executing a forum-conceived project of land reform in the Roseau Valley. Leslie was recognized as a guru when it came to matters concerning St. Lucia, whether social, economic, historical, or geographical. This was probably in part due to his management of the family real estate throughout the island. Geno, Rockall, Choc, Vigie, Canels, Louvet. His repertoire of jokes on his grandfather, Robert Pappy Clark, with respect to dealings with ordinary folk seeking medicines of all kinds, real and imaginary, I regarded as part of the folklore of St. Lucia and will certainly be missed. Leslie was a deeply religious individual who had converted from Anglicanism to Roman Catholicism like his mother before him. He attended Mass on a daily basis and participated fully in other activities and ceremonies of the St. Joseph the Worker Church at Groseley. He was a member of the Groseley Vestry and chaired various committees, sometimes dealing with thorny issues. Leslie was a quintessential family man who ensured the full comfort of his family. Proof of this dedication to family was clearly indicated in the manner of his passing when he was on his way with his son to visit his wife. The Clark family is well known for its philanthropy, and Robert Pappy Clark certainly passed on his generosity genes to the entire family. Leslie, like Jennifer and Janice, carried on the tradition by provision of scholarships to deserving students and donations to a wide variety of causes, like the obituary phrase, were too numerous to mention. However, Leslie's generosity to his alma mater, St. Mary's College, and his parish church at Groseley was far above praise. Leslie Clarky Clark, the man, was exceptional in many respects. He was meticulous, thorough, honest, precise in his strictly commercial dealings. He was courteous, respectful, patient with his customers and clients. He was warm, gentle, loving, refined, and helpful with his friends. These elements and values were so imbued in him that one can certainly say, as Shakespeare said in respect of Brutus, not only this was a man, but a gentleman of character of the highest order. My condolences to his dear family. And that, of course, as I said, a tribute to Leslie Clark, written by Sir Calix George. Now, as well in the paper, this weekend's Voice, there is a two-page piece on the upcoming stakeholder consultations, which are to be held, I think, from this week on the matter of the tariff review being undertaken by the National Utilities Regulatory Commission, that's the NERC, into the matter of the Water and Sewage Company, WASCO. And they, I believe, are looking for a rate review, a tariff review. And of course, this has to go through a process of public consultation, where the public has the opportunity to comment on on this matter. I don't think that we're going to have the time to get into it in detail today, as we're nearly out of time for this program. But certainly, just to point out that the entire, it's a summary really. The National Utilities Regulatory Commission NERC Triennial Tariff Review for the water and sewage sector, draft determination report, and there's a summary of that where it is looking at what are the existing rates that persons are paying for various services from the utility. And it goes into detail as to what is the existing rate, what are the proposed rates for that which they in fact are asking for. Of course, the last rate change came back in, I think, the year 2016 or thereabouts, or even a little earlier than that. So I think it's nearly, it certainly is over 10 years due. So it probably was even more than earlier than 2016. But we will look at that document, perhaps in our next program of the lunchroom tomorrow, where we can get into some of the details regarding the base rates and what are the scenarios that they're looking at. And perhaps we can also get, hopefully at some point, maybe somebody from the NERC to give some context in this matter. So definitely, I think it was certainly a very useful, it's a very useful undertaking, which no doubt many people will want to find out a little bit more about, because of course we are all pretty much consumers of water for the most part. Most people are depending on potable water coming from their taps, their connections, and so it is everybody's business, certainly. I believe there is one such meeting tomorrow, the 10th, I think, for the Grosley Human Resource Development Center. That will be on tomorrow. So as soon as we can get the list of meetings, we can give a detail in that regard. Of course, so a comment, I guess you could share it. I'm not going to state the person who sent it in, but the person is asking, can we get a figure from someone in government or statistics department on the optimal number of total rooms we should be aspiring to based on our land area and population? I'm of the opinion that we have enough hotels, especially considering the limited payoff for locals. As a great man once said, the purpose of development is to improve the lives of those who live here. If there are no or minimal benefits to the people, then we should reject it. I'm fed up of this hotel debate. My whole life we're fighting loss of beach area, and every year all we hear is more hotels. The sentiment of one person writing in. There has been a lot of conversation about this matter in terms of carrying capacity. How many hotel rooms can we support? And of course, there are a lot of different factors that have to go into that assessment of the carrying capacity. One, of course, yes, is the population. How many jobs are we looking to actually create? What kind of jobs are we looking to create through the hotel sector? Is it going to get to a point where, and some might say so already, it might be very well there, that maybe we're not going to be able to really, our capacity to absorb more jobs in that sector is actually may not necessarily be possible, or may not necessarily be where we need the jobs to be created. There is also the issue of how much it's costing to be able to create that particular job. So, for example, if we look at a sector like maybe the business process outsourcing, BPO sector, a lot of people term them as call centers. Are you, in terms of, on a land basis, what's taking up more land, what's taking up more potential resources like water and other things? What's really making a dent in terms of employment more? So there may be a lot of factors there to see. For each sector, do an analysis of those things and what's actually bringing in more taxes for the government. That's also another area of analysis. And then, of course, we have to look at the environmental considerations in respect of hotels and hotel rooms. Many have. We've heard many different figures over the years. Some may have said that, we should be looking at 10,000, 12,000, maybe even 15,000 hotel rooms, which would suggest, if we look at that model, that we probably do need more hotel rooms. But the question is, where do you need these hotel rooms? Are they all really going to have to be on a beach somewhere? Can we potentially be attracting different kinds of visitors to the island in terms of, we heard many proposals over the years, be it for more persons in the MICE sector, the meetings, incentives, conferences, and events area. So persons who might be attracted more to coming to conventions and conferences and those types of events may want a different type of hotel, different space, the business type of tourism. Can we do more in those areas? And of course, we've been speaking about sports as well, and sports tourism, and what are people looking for there. But certainly, a point that is fairly consistent is that a person coming to the idea of what is being sold, the concept of a tropical island, what is people are expecting to see. The palm fringe beaches, and is that what they're getting in terms of their experience? Is that being protected? Do they have access to it as a visitor who may not necessarily be right there along the beach in a hotel? So it's a balancing act. It's a balancing act because, of course, we're also competing with a lot of other destinations around the world right now. The likes of Cuba, the likes of Jamaica, the likes of the Dominican Republic, and even Haiti, for example. And many of these islands can, in fact, do the beach tourism a lot better than us because they've got far greater resources when it comes to literally just the miles, the number of meters of beach and shoreline they actually have. All right. So, and then, of course, that's just in the Caribbean. Even further afield, further into the Gulf of Mexico, and you've got Mexico and other countries there. And of course, Asia now, the rise of Vietnam, the likes of the Philippines, many new players and growing players that are offering the sun, sea, and sand type of destination approach. And so we have to certainly find a mix that works well for our country, that respects the culture, the environment of the state. We're going to have to continue that conversation perhaps tomorrow, and we do hope you can join us for that on the Lunchroom on Radio Caribbean International. I'm your host, Calix Shaw Jr., saying goodbye.